Welcome to the Wokest War in Ohio, where we have the wokest discourse. Today I am coming to you from Niles, Ohio, from my kitchen. On this very, very snowy weekend, I'm continuing to work through the introduction of Gabriel Rockhill's Who Paid the Piper of Western Marxism. And it reminds me of a novel I read by Ian McEwan some years ago called Sweet Tooth. The basic idea is, Sweet Tooth takes place in the UK, right? But it's based on something that also happened in the United States during the Cold War. Throughout the Western world, capitalist forces like the CIA, forces that, undergird capitalism, like the CIA, would promote artists whose works were anti-Marxist or just non-Marxist, right? There was this author from Greenup County, Kentucky, named Jesse, can't think of it right now, who just wrote stories about growing up in Appalachia. And they're quite good, but they're not Marxist. And so what the CIA would do is they would find up-and-coming artists and writers. You may have heard of this in reference to Jackson Pollock. They would find up-and-coming writers and authors, and they would bump their careers forward by either buying their art or opening publishing houses and publishing these writers to get their careers started. And this was a phenomenon that actually happened. If you don't believe me, you can look it up. I don't think you're going to look it up. I think you just are going to take it for granted that I'm telling you the truth. But, okay, so Gabriel Rockhill's book is that not only we've known for years that they did this with writers and artists because of declassified documents. What Gabriel Rockhill is talking about is that they did the same thing with philosophers, such that if you were a Western philosopher during the Cold War, if you wanted to get your work published, you would think that it would need to be not Marxist. But the trick is that they actually looked for Marxists to publish who would undermine Marxism. So the idea is you want Marxists to criticize actually existing socialism, such as the Soviet Union, using Marxist analysis. And they opened publishing houses to do this, specifically to publish this philosophy to complement capitalism. I'm wearing my shirt that my sister got me from Pittsburgh today, from the Carnegie Museum of Art. And when I sat down to record this, I was like, that's absolutely perfect. Because if you're having trouble with this concept, I want you to think about Andrew Carnegie. Okay, Andrew Carnegie built these libraries and museums, but he certainly didn't do it to overthrow capitalism, right? I mean, you'll buy that, right? Andrew Carnegie did not want to overthrow capitalism. So it's is he really trying to educate people? No. His goal was not to educate people. His goal was to keep people from rioting. So you know, throw them some bread and circuses, sprinkle a little crack on them, and they'll be good. The second thing I want to bring up, which is highly speculative, have absolutely no evidence on this research question. This question I have is the CIA continuing to do this? I would presume the answer is yes, right? If the US government isn't doing it, which is it's possible that they've outsourced it all to independent contractors, third-party contractors, right? So it isn't necessarily the case that the CIA is directly doing this anymore. But we know that capitalists are putting money into projects to promote capitalism. And it is entirely likely that, as they did during the Cold War, that they are also funding communists. Why do I say this? Well, because they funded Marxists during the Cold War. What you do is, if you don't want people to be Marxist, you find the Marxist who is the biggest asshole and you promote him, right? So Rockhill is saying this is how we got Slavoj Žižek. You find a communist that's a total asshole and no one likes them, and nobody, who is a buffoon. So nobody would ever take him seriously as leading a revolutionary movement, for example. So my question is, where does the ACP, the American Communist Party, get their money? I would like to know. I would like to know where the ACP gets their money. Because I see people from the ACP going all around the world to like Belarus. I mean, like these far-flung places, and meeting with foreign ministers of other countries. And I'm just like, how many members do they actually have? Like, how many people are in the ACP? Like, a typical chapter size, I'm guessing, is probably about 20 people in a big city, right? My friend was out in the park in Minneapolis and saw some ACP members doing a food serve in the park. So they actually exist in real life. It's not a completely fake organization. There are actually people in this organization, but it's very few. There are not many of them. And I don't see how they're doing it without some form of outside funding, right? So people have speculated, are they taking money from the Chinese? Because they're very pro-China. I have yet to hear anyone speculate that they're actually taking money like from capitalists. But I suspect, based on history and the history of the Cold War, the ACP is being funded by capitalists because they are clowns. Because they act like clowns, they're idiotic, and no one in their right mind would follow them. So the forces that be needed to create something that was communist, that was also ludicrous. And they found a couple of guys who were neo-Stalinists, and were like, we'll throw a lot of money at you to do some really stupid shit. And they were like, we like money. That's what I think happened. I'm interested in anyone from the ACP, like members. I'm talking about, not leadership, but I'm talking about members. Like, what drew you to the ACP? Like, for example, the people that are doing a food serve in the park, they're putting a lot of their time and effort and energy into this organization. And I'm just wondering what it is about this organization where you would join that instead of, for example, DSA or CPUSA or some other sect. I'd really like to know. Thanks for listening.